Hello everyone, welcome! Today I have a few fun cards to show you using a darling new stamp set from the Not Too Shabby shop. This set is called Hugs and Fishes, and I just love all of the underwater critters and the sentiments from this set. The sentiments say, "Hugs and fishes, sorry I was sharp, see you soon, and we will never lose each other." I'm going to be using some hot press watercolor paper and I'll cut them down into panels. So lately I've been having a lot of fun creating background panels using watercolors, and I'm using some liquid watercolors from Dr. P.H. Martin. They're called Hydrus Fine Art Watercolors. But before we get into that, I'm going to ink up all of my images onto this watercolor paper. I use some anti-static powder first because I am going to heat emboss all of these images. The ink I'm using is VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a nice dark ink and it stays wet long enough for me to pour over some clear embossing powder. But I'm just going to fill up this page full of these darling critters and shells and all of the images from this set. And then I can pour over the clear embossing powder. And then I do allow my heat tool to warm up for about a minute, and then I go ahead and melt them. I like heat embossing my images when I'm going to be doing watercolors because it makes for some really fast watercoloring. It raises up the lines on these images and helps me to keep my colors from bleeding. So I am going to put this panel aside for just a minute. I pulled out my butcher's tray. This is a nice enamel-coated tray that allows the watercolors and the water to pool up instead of bead up. I'll show you what I mean here in just a minute. First, I'm going to work on the underwater scenes. The colors I'm using are blue aqua, turquoise blue, and the purple one is called ultramarine red violet. I'll put a few drops of each in this tray. And then I'm going to bring in a lot of water and mix these around a little bit. I'll just drop the water in with a large watercolor brush. I don't want to stir them around too much because I want to be able to see the different colors. But I do want to add a lot of water so that I can dip these panels in and have them completely filled with this beautiful color. This was a really fun technique. I did this in my last video for the Not Too Shabby shop, and I will link to that at the end of this video. But this is just really fun to do. If you've never tried it, I recommend giving it a try. So I'm going to press the watercolor panel into the paint, and I'll pick it up with my tweezers. I'm going to use my brush just to cover some of the white bits. But this watercolor is really nice because once it dries, it's permanent. You won't be able to reactivate it at all. So once my panel has dried, I can come back in and dip it again, and it'll just add some more color and vibrancy to the panel. I'm going to add a little more water to my tray. And I do make up several of these panels. So let's dip the second panel in. And each one just turns out so different. And I just love the marbling effect of that. I'm just putting these panels on a paper towel to dry. I'll add a little more paint at the top of this tray. And then I can dip 2 more panels. I'll add some more water. You can, of course, do this with whatever watercolors you have on hand. And you can create really fast but beautiful backgrounds for your cards this way. I'm going to dip 1 more panel. I'll dip this one kind of at the bottom of the tray where all of the watercolor is pooling up down there. You can really see all of the different colors that I used. I allowed these to air dry, but you could definitely come in with your heat tool and dry them quickly. And here they all are. I want to add another layer to these panels. So I'm going to move this paint around a little bit in the tray and add a little more color. And then I can add some water as well. My 4 panels dried back kind of pale, so I wanted to add just a little more color and vibrancy to these for some really fun underwater backgrounds. But look at that pretty color. I like the touch of purple in this as well. It just adds a little more interest to my cards. For my last 2 panels, I am going to kind of move the watercolor around in this tray. Once I'm done with my panels, I can wash out my tray and all of the color just washes off perfectly. So here is my last panel. So now I can clean out this tray and start working on the beach or the sand panels. The colors I'm using are raw sienna, raw umber, and a little bit of red oxide. Mostly I'm using the raw sienna because it is kind of a lighter brown. I'll put a little bit more of the raw sienna down. Now I can add a lot of water to this. And just let the colors kind of bleed together and move around. And then I do use my brush just to get them to move a little bit better. I'm using a lot of water this time. I was just worried that the colors were a bit too dark for a beach scene. So I'm just flooding it with water. Now let's dip the first panel. I'll pick it up with my tweezers. And look how pretty that is. There is just a big red dot there at the side, so I'm going to move that around a little bit. It's just a little bit too red. Okay, let's dip another panel. I'm going to move that red around in the tray too. I'll add some more raw sienna and some more water. And let's dip a few more panels. I have a lot of paint in this tray, and I'm going to make up 4 panels with this as well. I don't come in with another layer for these panels. I thought it was just the right color as is. I'm going to move the color around again in the tray and then dip my 3rd panel. And I really like this one. It looks like sand dunes on this one. I'll grab another panel out of my little pouch of watercolor panels. I didn't want to stop and cut down another piece of the hot press watercolor paper out of the book. So I keep a pouch of leftover watercolor paper, and I don't really even know what kind of paper it is, but this one worked out just fine. I'll just use up all of these scraps. I'm trying to dip the corners in so that the whole panel is completely covered. And now I can set these aside to dry. And while they're drying, I'm going to color in our little underwater images. For this, I'm using some Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. And I'm doing very simple coloring. Most of these images, I just use 2 colors on. And I love this little narwhal image. I used a few colors on this one, but I'm putting some shading at the bottom, and then I come in with some lighter blues. And I just love the little expression on his face. He's so cute. And the seahorses, I colored them in all slightly different. But here they are, all colored in. I just love how bright and colorful you can paint these. I fussy cut out all of the images, and all of my panels are dry. So I put together 3 different sizes of cards using all of the panels and my little underwater critters. Card number 1 is an A2 sized card, and I cut the panels into strips and glued them onto my card base. Some of the images I popped up with foam adhesive, and here I'm just adding a little bit of glitter pen over them. Here's a close-up look. I also added little water droplet embellishments to look like bubbles. Card number 2 is a square 4.5-inch card. I used a circle die and a wave die to cut out my background this time. On the corners, I blended on a little bit of vintage photo to add interest to the card. And the last card is a mini slimline, which measures 3.25 by 6.25. I cut out my water background into a rectangle, and I cut out a little bit of sand using a hill die. I glued down all of my images flat, and then I popped up the sentiment that says "See you soon" with a little bit of foam tape. The glue behind these embellishments will dry clear, and you'll see that on the pictures at the end of this video. But here is a close-up look at card number 3. These cards are really fast and fun to put together once you have your background and your images all ready to go. I'll have the link to this adorable stamp set in the description box below if you want to go over to the Not Too Shabby shop and check it out. I also have a 10% off coupon code for you for the Not Too Shabby shop. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye.